Yeah, let's hold on. I think it's trying to log in back. Hello, can we go here? Okay, while we wait for him, can we just have a little recap of the previous session? So one or two persons should give us a recap of module three. While we wait for him to join up. Okay, I think it's almost here, but someone can just give us. Okay, it's up. Okay. Hello, sir. Are you with us now? You're sharing is like.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sir.
Sorry, it was networks. I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's
It's
fine. It's
network. That
fine.
is the reason why I'm very sorry.
It's fine. It's
Um,
fine.
today's can people see the slide now?
Yes.
Yes.
You have to make it bolder.
Actually, okay.
Mm. Here's the share screen.
Can they see like that? Can they see like that?
Yes, we can
Hello?
see your screen, but uh, I can see your screen, but the other one is not.
Okay, okay, okay,
Not good, yes.
okay. Please, can you see now? Hello? Hello? Can everybody see it?
We can see it, but it's small. It's not bold.
It's small. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Let me see what I can do from here.
We are seeing two backgrounds, sir.
Two
One, the slide,
background.
and also the yes.
Okay. Can you see it now, Abi?
So we
It's
are
still
still seeing
showing the
two
same thing. I
backgrounds.
think stop sharing and share it.
Okay, okay, okay. Wow. Can we see it now? Can we see it now?
Yes, better.
Yes, we can see, sir.
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Israel?
So, but you need to
Better.
expand it. Press and screen. Yes,
Okay. Yes, better
yes.
now.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Sorry for the delay. I will quickly go straight to this requirement to 15189-2022 at the fourth editions. And today we are going to talk about resources requirement. Actually, what are the resources that are needed in ISO 15189? The laboratory shall have available personnel, facility, equipment, reagent, consumable, and support services. Let's underline personnel. For you to go very well in any organization, you need personnel. The way the facilities are, the equipment, the reagent, the consumable, and support. I always call these are the key resources requirements for any lab. Laboratories shall have access to a sufficient number of competent persons. In the lab, we need a competent persons to work and be a competent and work in accordance with laboratory management system. And these are the requirements that the person need to meet. For some, based on the kind of the lab you are operating in medical laboratory, we know that you must have a biomedical scientist or medical lab scientist, which the person is being licensed. And this is very important, unlike the research laboratories, which some of these requirements may be exempted. But have a program to introduce orientation, to introduce personnel to the organizations. In this, most of the new staff that we are having, we have to have orientations program for them that we introduce them to the lab proper. Orientation program, during orientation programs, most of the policy of the laboratory will be discussed with them. All the issue that on laboratory handbook, the safety measures in the labs, all these things will be discussed with them and the orientation, and it will be documented, the attendance will be taken, and the report for that orientation will be recorded down. And this is very, very important. And I have a program to introduce personnel to organization, department area, and with the person we work, the term and condition of employment, staff, facility, health and safety requirement, occupation health services. And the part of occupation services, most of the new staff will be informed that all of them should go and vaccinate themselves for maybe hepatitis B vaccine, especially all those disease conditions that we need to vaccinate for. And this vaccination card will be made, the photocopy will be made and will be put inside the personnel file for such workers. For all the workers, part of the thing that will be inside their personnel file is that the immunization card report, whether COVID, and this one should be there. Competence requirement. The laboratory shall specify the competence requirement for each function, including requirement for education, qualification, training, and retraining, technical knowledge, skill, and experience. The laboratory shall ensure the personnel have the competency. The laboratory shall have a process for managing competency of its personnel. And that is why the laboratory should have competency SOP, standard operating procedure for personnel competency. And these competencies assessment will be done for the staff, especially when you have a new staff, you run competency assessment for that staff. When you have a new equipment is being brought to a facility, to a particular department, competency assessment should be done for the staff to know the training gap that is needed for them. And the competency assessment should be done for every staff of the lab, every six months. 6 month competency assessment should be done. And there are many ways by which competency can be done: direct observations of the activities, monitoring the recording and reporting of simulation. A blind sample can be given to a staff to run, and they will check whether what the result they are getting now. Review of work records, assessment of problem-solving skill, and examination of specialized provided sample, previously examined sample, maybe a previous day test and sample that you have done, you can give it to a person to run, and then you can check whether they will get the same thing, or you can use a split sample or EQA sample, proficiency sample can be used for the competencies assessment. And that is why anytime you are running, a competency assessment is not to indict a person, but actually is to know the gap where they need training for. And the process for competencies assessment, and it should have the SOP, just as Afale said. And competence should be assessed using a combination of some of the following methods. We have direct observation. Direct observation is very, very important. And direct observation is the person here. Anytime they want to do competency assessment, you have to monitor what the person is doing. You have to be at the bench and watch whether the person is following the SOP, whether the person is checking the SOP, or he observed the procedure and protocol, monitoring and recording examination of the result, how the person is actually, whether it's following the process and the procedure for a particular test. And any of this method can be used to check competency assessment for a staff. And blind samples is also good. And you can use the review of the accumulated IQC or EQA, the IQC, internal quality control, and external quality assurance control samples can be used. And competency assessment is very, very good. And competency assessment for professionals judgment should be designed as specific and fit for purpose. Define the method and the method you want to use, and define the competency requirement, criteria, and frequency of each laboratory activity. Assessment of ongoing competency. Provide feedback to the person assessed. After you have finished the competency assessment, and there should be a feedback where you will tell the person what he has gotten. And it is important for us to scale it, maybe by percentage, so that in the long run, you're able to calculate what the person has gotten, and even schedule retraining based on the assessment outcome. And this is very, very important. Retention of record of competency assessment and outcome. And normally, the retention for competency assessment depends on laboratory policy on retentions of the documents. Some office or some lab will tell you that the retention of the document for a particular lab is 5 years. So depending on the policy and inside the quality manual. The laboratory shall specify the competency requirement for each function, include requirement for education, and we have talked about that one. And then authorization. In the lab, it is important for us that who is authorizing somebody. It is important for us to know that authorized personnel to perform specific activities. How selection, development, modification, validation, and verification of method, review, release, and reporting of results. it is important for us to understand that inside our quality manual, it should be stated how we are releasing results, how we are reporting of results. And it should be noted that who is, after a test is being done, somebody have to review it. Use of laboratory information system, in particular, access patient data and information, and entering patient data and examination result. Who authorized to access patient data? Who and who? And this one should be inside the SOP of information management system of the laboratory, so that it is noted that whatever we are doing. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? 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 Can we hear
Yes,
me?
yes, we can hear
Okay.
you now.
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. And that is why the SOP for information management system, these aspects of authorization should be written there so that people will know who enter results, who can print, who can access patient data, and even in signing of the results, all this should be stated inside the information management system. If we are using technology for assessment, laboratory information management, LIMIX, and continuing education and professional development. Personnel shall participate in CPD, regular professional development. That one, it should be noted that you cannot, all of us, every year, we should have our CPD. And I know quite well, I'm talking from the broad sense, whether Nigeria, whether you are doing CLIE, you are doing ASLM, you have to have a certificate for all this professional development, and you will put it inside your personnel record. Determine the competency requirement, position description, and that is why inside the personnel file, job description should be there. Training and retraining, all the trainings that somebody have gone for, the lab scientists have gone for, the lab personnel have gone through, should be written there. An authorization of the personnel. This personnel, what is his role and the area of his authorization, in which area is being authorized to do one thing or the other. And we are talking about competency assessment. And we have talked about education and professional qualifications. We have talked about this. And we can maintain our personnel record, both hard copy or electronic copy. It may be hybrid. Some places, they do most of this personnel file electronically, but we should maintain for all the current personnel, all the personnel that have left the organization. There's no need to keep their records together with the new staff. However, the record are kept, the record must be easily accessible. So, and that is why I know that we have files. If we are still running hard copy, we have files for those 12 essential. At least a personnel should have a folder on its own where you keep all the informations about the personnel, their appointment letter, the license should be there, the CV should be there, and the training activities, training certificate, immunizations card should be there, job description should be there, competency assessment should be there. These are just the minimum, but passports also can be there, and these are kept in the laboratory and is very, very important. Facility and environment condition. That is suitable for laboratory and shall not adversely affect the validity of results or safety of the patient, visitor, laboratory user, and personnel. And gone are the days that we have mushroom labs. Thank God for the ISO 15189. Now, a lab should have consider the safety of the patient, the visitors that are coming even the laboratory user, maybe the doctor, and even lab personnel. And now it is even required for a lab now to have a place, a restroom for scientists with oven. The requirement for facility and environment conditions necessary for performer of laboratory shall be specified and monitored and recorded, which means all our lab should be able to monitor the environmental conditions of the lab, which means and when we are using even hello, hello.
We can hear you, sir, boy. We can no longer
We
see your
can
slide
hear you
anymore.
now.
I can't hear
Hello, can
anything.
you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We
Hello?
can hear you, but we
Okay.
can't see your slide.
You cannot see the slide again?
No, we can't.
Can you see the slide?
No, we can't see the slide
Not
again.
at all.
You can share the slide.
Okay. Let me share it again. Can you see the slide again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay
And
now.
no, yes. It is important for us to have a temperature chart for ambient temperatures, and we will measure it in the morning, AM and PM. So in the morning, you measure it, and at the afternoon time, you measure it, and that ambient temperature between 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And at the end of the way, if it is flag, you use the red pen to mark it so that you will know that, oh, maybe your AC is not working effectively. And that one's even help us in case that we are trying to tell the management that there is a need to change the AC. By the time you have the ambient temperature chart of a 1 week or 2 weeks, and you raise non-conformity for it, and you attach it with a letter, I know quite well, most of the directors, we want to make sure that they do the needful. Because when you attach those ambient temperature chart with it, when they look at it and the non-conformity raised and the letter attached to it, I know they will change, they will quickly do something. Environmental conditions can be adversely affect the validity of results, which include but are not limited. I want this aspect, most of these things that we are environmental condition can really affect. Dust can cause a lot of things, electromagnetic and disturbance can cause, and humidity, electric supply, temperature, sound, and vibrations. All these things can really affect the result that we are issuing out. And on the lighter note, it is important for us to know that in the lab, we should make sure that dust is not entering to the lab, and that's why our AC must be functioning. Because of the dust, it can affect most of this machine, and that is why most of the labs many of the labs have to have a blind, and so that it can prevent the dust, and the use of AC, well serviced very well. The issue of sound and vibrations, though it has been a debate, but ISO said that there's none, music should not be played at a particular volume. But it is on record for us to know that it is not good for us to be having sound inside the lab. Facility control shall implement a recorded monitor periodic review, just what I've said. And then we're talking about control of access. Our lab should have a sticker where it will be written that staff only, not for non-staff are not allowed. Something that in the description that we're able to tell people that not Dick and Harry can come to the lab. Prevention of contamination, interference and adverse influence, and prevention of cross contamination, provision of safety facility and device where applicable. And we know quite well that most of the things that we needed in the lab, the fire blanket, the fire extinguishers, they're supposed to be inside the lab. And I know they used to be expired, so we need to call the maintenance to, that's why we have to have a maintenance log for fire extinguisher, and this maintenance log. And when anytime the technician are coming to come and work on it, it is important for us to know that they should put their sticker to certify they have worked on it. We know that lab should have the how to prevent cross contaminations, and that is easy of not putting sample with reagent. Some places where they put reagent and sample together, and that is why in the lab we should have a dirty fridge, so that we know that most of the sample that we are working on, we can keep them inside the dirty fridge so that they will not contaminate the new sample we are getting. So in the lab, we should have a dirty fridge to prevent the cross contaminations and anything that can really affect the test that we are running. And we are talking about safety goggle. We have lab coats and wearing of hand gloves. I think these are things that we don't need to talk much about because it is very, very essential. And we know that quite well that in some cases Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
The networks have been so bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hello?
But we
Yes, we
can't
can hear
see.
you, sir. Just okay, continue, please.
Can we see this?
Yes, we can. We can see the
Okay.
slide and we can hear you.
Hello.
Okay. We are talking about the facility.
Yes.
Something I want to report out for us from that facility control. It is important for us to note that every lab should have signs, maybe at the entrance of the lab, so that in order to demarcate the main lab from the reception, if you are having one lab that they are demarcated, so that people will know that in this lab we don't move more than this space in any time you enter to the lab. Storage space for sample equipment, reagent, consumable should be provided. Actually, this is very important that anywhere we should make sure that we have a space for sample. As I've said, we have the sample fridge, and we have sample fridge for storing the sample, and those sample fridge, we should have the temperature, the temperatures thermometer, at least to measure the temperature of the fridge, and 2 to minus 8 degrees Celsius. And for the freezer, we should have less than or equal to minus 15 degrees, and that is the acceptable range. So we should have ABM temperature, fridge temperature chart, and freezer temperature chart. Patient sample and material used in examination process should be stored in a manner that prevents cross contamination. I've talked about that. Storage and disposal facility for hazardous materials. And in this one, it is important for us to know that how do we dispose our laboratory waste and all the waste we are generated in the labs. First of all, we should have SOP for waste segregations and disposals of our waste. And all the chemicals that we are having inside the labs, we should be able to label all the chemicals based on their reactivities and the chemical that are supposed not to stay together. And that is why we should have the inventories of all the chemicals that we are using in the labs, all the reagents we are using in the labs. And we should be able to know it, if it is for the chemicals, we should be able to know the hazard. And that is why safety data sheet is very important for us to know the kind of chemicals we are using in the lab. And as little as hydrochloric acid and formaldehyde should not stay together, which can lead to lung cancer. And somebody that do not know will carry hydrochloric acid, or let's say jig that we are using, and formaldehyde together. And if they are together, the two chemicals can cause lung cancer. So classification of materials, and is very, very important, so that step 3 of regulatory requirement. And these are the way by which we can able to say, okay, A, chemical A, B, C, they are based on their activities, the kind of reactions that they normally occur when you use the chemical, when they stay together, the fumes and all those, and we're able to check the hazard sign. Maybe we can classify them based on the hazard sign, and majority of those chemicals that we are using, we should be able to label all the chemicals we are using. We should be able to, all our chemicals should have safety data sheet, and again, we should be able to classify them based on their reactivities and based on their effect. Storage space for sample, equipment, reagent, we are talking about that. And how do we dispose our waste? Majorly, we're supposed to have the contaminations log, especially for all the waste that we generate in the lab. We'll pack them and autoclave them. And that is why I raise a question that how many autoclave do we need to have in the lab? It is important to say on the standard scale, it is better for us to have two autoclave. If you can use one for preparation of media, and then you can use one for decontaminations of all the waste generated in the lab. And then how do you dispose it? We should have, that's why I said we should have the SOP for waste segregations and waste disposal. And even in case of chemicals, what do you do? Expired chemicals, how do you dispose them? Most of the expired chemicals, it can be inside our SOP. The MLSCN, Medical Laboratory Council of Nigeria, and CLSI, they have almost the same guidelines for waste to dispose all these chemicals that we are using. It is established that one, most of these chemicals can be disposed. Those ones that are expired, you can dilute them with more water. When you dilute them with water, at least their potency will be reduced. And so those ones that are acid, you can just add some sodium hydroxide for them, and from them to form neutralization, which can form salt and water, which make them less hazardous, which is very, very important about the chemical waste that we are using. And some of the machine that we are using that we normally generate waste after we have used them, such as Sysmex, most of these hematological analyzers, and some of the chemistry automated analyzers that generate waste. We should follow the procedure for the equipment, how to dispose their waste is very, very important. There shall be adequate access to toilet facility. This one I've said drinking water as well as facility for storage of personnel, equipment, and clothing. So it is high time we understood that we should treat our staff very well. If we are in the managerial positions, lab should have separate toilets, and they should have where they can rest, drink waters, and storage. They should have where they can cupboard that they can put their personal effect. They can put whatever they have, their purse and everything, they can put it inside, even their clothes. So it is better for us to have another room for taking care of the staff, space for personnel such as meeting, and the rest area should be provided, and which is very, very important. Sample collection facility shall enable collection to be undertaken in a manner that will not result or adversely affect the quality of the examination. I think there should be a place for sample collections, and that sample collections area should not be too tight for the person that is collecting sample, and even the person that you want to collect sample should not be too tight for them. And we should consider privacy, comfort, and need if possible. And that is why anytime we want to have sample collection facility, we should consider some of these things that have been said. Adequate space for sample collection, adequate space first for registration of the patient, adequate space for sample collections of the patient. And again, we should understand that anytime we want to talk to somebody that do not hear our language, maybe I'm speaking French and somebody is speaking English to me, so we should have an interpreter during the collection to be able to let um, the patient know what or he or she need to do. Provide separate patient reception and collection area, and that is why patient reception and collection area should be first aid material for both patient and personnel, and that is why the issue of health talk is very, very important now, and that in during the health talk, it is important for us to know that all these things should be discussed with the patient, especially part of it is that when they come to the lab, what is expected of them, where they need to keep their sample, if they need to go to toilet, this is where the toilet is. If they hear the ringing or fire alarm, they should go to muster point. These are the things that need to be discussed during the health talk for the patient as far anytime they come to the lab. And first aid materials, this is very important that we should provide that. And we're talking about equipment now. For the equipment, it is important for us to know that without a good equipment, we cannot perform or do any test effectively. We need the tools, and the tools is equipment. We shall have the process for selection, procurement, and installation, handling, transport, storage, maintenance, the commission of equipment. This is to tell us that we need to have an SOP on equipment selection and procurement. And although it varies from one lab to the other, and management take care of selection and procurement in some places, but there are some areas that we need to come in as a end user, and that is the area of storage and maintenance. And that is when the new equipment is brought into the lab, we should have installations, equipment installations data sheet that you register the name of the equipment, you register whether it's old or new, you register the serial number of the equipment, and there are 4 principal things that should be checked. One, where you are putting the equipment, whether it's to direct sunlight, whether to direct away from vibrations, and you check whether the equipment has a manual, and whether it has a manual, and whether it even have a service manual. You will check all this, and in your equipment detail form, all these things will be ticked before we talk about the validations of the equipment. And if the equipment is not being used again, it should be decommissioned. And those decommissioned equipment, what are the procedures that we are using to decommission? And that is why you have to have an SOP on the commissioning of equipment, that this equipment is not used again, maybe based on the manufacturer materials or tools, or spare parts are not available, and those kind of equipment will be decommissioned. And in as much as they are decommissioning, what are the procedures you are doing? You have to decontaminate the equipment before you decommission it. And you should have a decommission register. All those equipment that being decommissioned, where are you putting all of them? You have to note that. Equipment required to correct performance of the requirements for this document are met. Each item of equipment that can be influenced laboratory activity be uniquely labeled, marked, or otherwise identified. All the equipment that we are having in the lab, every one of them, we have to label them. If it is microscope, you label microscope, you put it on it. If it's a vitro sense, you label it and put it on it. If it is oven, you label it and put vitro sense oven on it. If it is incubator, you label it and put it on it, because somebody may come to the lab and may not know which kind of equipment is this. So all the equipment should be labeled. And there is something we call equipment book of life. Inside the equipment book of life, the equipment officer is saddled and is responsible to make sure that all the equipment that's in the lab should have an inventory of all of them. The equipment name, the serial number, the date is being put, is the date is being supplied, the date is being put to use, the day it's being validated, the contact number of the supplier, the telephone number, and the address of the supplier. All these things should be inside the equipment book of life, and that is very, very important. Laboratory shall remain and replace equipment to ensure the quality of the examination, and this is very, very important. Verify the equipment acceptable procedure. That is why it is important for equipment used for measuring shall be able to capable of achieving the accuracy and measurement or certainty to give a valid result. Actually, it is our responsibility to do precision and accuracy on the equipment that we are using. And precision, though that is another topic on its own, but we should note that we should be able to do equipment to validate what the suppliers have said, that the coefficient variation of this result for a particular test is this. If you run it, can this equipment give the same thing just as what they are saying when you are doing equipment comparison and the measurement of certainty of and equipment should be able to give reproducible. It's very, very important. Prevent unintended adjustment of equipment operated by trained, authorized, and competent personnel. Instruction for the use of equipment shall be readily available. Actually, the SOP of all the equipment should have an SOP. How to if it is microscope, SOP of microscope, so that somebody can able to read it and know this is how to operate the microscope. And for that, hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we
Hello,
can
can you
hear
hear
you,
me?
sir.
Please,
We
I
can
want
hear you,
somebody
sir.
to raise non-conformity for the network provider. On the lighter note, I say, can somebody raise non-conformity for the network provider? Back to what we are saying, we should have a preventive maintenance programs. How do we have equipment maintenance plan in our lab? We should have equipment schedule for maintenance. And this equipment schedule plan can be part of a laboratory plan for the year. Maybe all the equipment are maintained and serviced every 6 months. And that is very, very important. So we have equipment maintenance plan. Laboratory shall decontaminate equipment before service, and even require when they are even decommissioning, provided a space for repair and appropriate personal protective equipment. For any equipment we have in the lab, we have said that we need equipment book of life. We said that we need preventive maintenance log, daily maintenance log for all our equipment. If I'm having a microscope, I should have daily maintenance log for the microscope for all the equipment we are using in the lab. And we have said that we should have equipment maintenance plan that in our lab for so for this 2025, this is how we are doing maintenance, preventing maintenance for our equipment, maybe 6 months, and we'll state the technical partners that are coming to do that. And again, from the equipment that you have said, if you are decommissioning any equipment, that it is important for us to know that we should decontaminate them. Even if we are repairing it, they are carrying the equipment out of our facility. It is important for us to decontaminate them before, and that is why when you have equipment transfer form, you're able to note inside the equipment transfer form, the contamination is being done. And after they have finished up with the equipment, we can able to bring it back and then do the contamination before we start using them. Though in advanced country, when equipment is faulty, what they normally do is that they have a sticker they will put red. When you see equipment non-functional, they will put red. And when they have taken the equipment out from the lab and they have brought it back, but it's not yet validated again, they will put yellow. They will put yellow on it to show that, okay, they have brought it back, but it is not yet validated. And if the equipment is functioning, the sticker that is always, it depends on a workplace or a lab, what they will use. Some of them will just use a sticker, a white sticker to show that it's functioning. So it depends on what they want to use in particular lab. But it's just to let other people know the conditions of their equipment. Adverse incident and accident that can be attributed directly. And this one is an issue of raising an incident form. In the lab, there's a need for us to have an incident form. And if we know that this ISO 15589 is always around the risk of the patient, the laboratory user, and even to the community. So it is important for us to have equipment adverse incident report or incident form. We can, in order for us not to have multiple incident form, we can have one incident form that will capture the equipment, personnel, chemicals or consumable we are using in the lab, so that if they have any, we're able to take a form and fill it for them. But most importantly, in those forms, even if it is equipment or personnel or is consumable or chemicals, most of these things are supposed to be there. Number one, the kind of incident that occur, the time of occurrence, where it occurred, whether it involved laboratory staff, whether it is involved non-laboratory staff, how many people are involved. And then we're able to talk about the area of the injury. The injury, is it to the hand or not? We're able to know the extent of the injury. Then we'll now come down and talk about inside this incident, what is the immediate action taken when we have the incident. Maybe as you are working, you discover that the probe of the automated machine, the probe just pinch somebody, or whether IC analyzer or hematology analyzer, maybe we're able to know the extent of the area of the injury and what is the immediate action that is taken. And then we're able to now do risk assessment of the incident. Is it severe? Is it what is the frequency of the risk? We're able to know the severity. Is it less severe? You're able to score it if it's less severe, if it is severe, if you're able to score it, and the frequency of it. And that is why we have to do risk assessment on the equipment adverse incident that happen. You have to do, after you do that, you have done the risk assessment of it, because you have thought, so what are the preventive maintenance, preventive way of, so that that incident will not occur again. What are the preventive measures they are putting in place so that incident of that equipment that happen, you're able to say the preventive maintenance that you have put in place. And then if you have done that, you can do the root cause analysis. When you do the root cause analysis, that what is the thing that caused this incident of the adverse incident report that that incident that happened, what is the root cause? After you have taken the root cause, you're able now to say what is the corrective actions that you have taken. Maybe immediately the machine is stopped, maybe the machine is being replaced immediately. So you state all this inside the incident report. And it's very important. The manufacturer have procedure for responding to any manufacturer recall or other notice and taking action recommended by the manufacturer. Actually, sometimes you maybe after you have do risk assessment on our equipment, and if you have do the safety audit and you discover that with safety audit, with the safety audit and risk assessment that you have done, you can reject an equipment if you are sure that it will have adverse effects, and then the manufacturer will recall that kind of equipment. It has happened, and equipment record have said records shall be maintained for each item of the equipment that can influence the laboratory activities. And this is what I talk about equipment book of life. Manufacturer and supplier details, date of receipt, acceptance testing and entry into service, evidence that equipment conform with the specific acceptability criteria, the current location, the condition when receiving new use or recondition, and manufacturer instructions, manual is it there, safety manual, service manual is still there, and the program for preventing. All these are things that should be in the equipment book of life. And I've talked about most of this when we are talking. The laboratory shall specify calibration and traceability requirement that is sufficient to maintain consistent reporting of examination results. For quantitative method of measure analyze, specification shall include the calibration and metrologic traceability requirements. And it's qualitative method and quantitative method that measure characteristics that's discrete, and I shall specify the characteristics being assessed. This equipment calibration, every equipment that we are using, all of them, we need to calibrate them. Even to pipettes, you need to do the calibration of the pipette. You need to do the calibration of your centrifuge. You need to do the calibrations of most of the equipment we are using. And that is why it's important for us to calibrate our equipment. And the calibration report for some is different from it, but for some equipment, you can't even use it without doing calibration. Like chemical and most of these chemistry analyzers, you have to do the calibration. And if calibration fails, you cannot continue. And it's just for those one that like all these are whale scale that we are using. You should be able to have this traceability report of that whale scale you are using in the lab. Equipment calibrations, I've talked about that. Verification of the requirement, accuracy and precision, I've talked about that. Recording calibration status and date of recalibration. Most of the equipment, you can't use them without calibration, and those ones that you need to recalibrate. And it's very, very important. And handling situation where calibration was out of control to minimize risk to service operation. So when the calibration fails for most of the equipment may not even functions. And I've talked about the traceabilities of the measurement we are doing, and it's very important that calibration should be provided and by competent organization. When it's not possible to provide traceability according to this, for providing confidence in the result of reference material procedure can be used when you don't have the traceability record. Measurement or calibrator by another procedure. You can use another calibrator, maybe a particular machine. The calibrator that you need to use is not there. You can still use another calibrator, third-party calibrator, to really use the machine for genetic examination. For those people that did, they are doing the gene analysis, or they are doing DNA tests. They have to establish their reference sequence, and they have to have the reference. They have to say, oh, this is what they are using as their reference. For qualitative method, traceability may be demonstrated by no material or prior sample sufficient to show consistent identification. And so for some things that you just you don't have the materials, control materials for you to be able to standardize them, you can use a material that you have known their result before, and it is very, very important. We can even use this kind of thing for qualitative, for those people that are doing ELISA, especially for neglected tropicals, Ocosaschiasis of OF16, using ELISA method. They can use previous samples for them to run their tests, and even sometimes the hematology. And now that I think there is a problem about procurement of age check and of a no materials or previous sample you analyze, if you can keep it very well, it can still be useful. We're talking about reagent. We have talked about the personnel. We have talked about the facility and safety. We have talked about the equipment. Now we talk about reagent and consumable. Laboratory shall have process for selections. This is SOP for reagent and consumable. And we should have SOP for our reagent and consumable, and inventory of all the consumable reagent we are using in the lab. Laboratory shall store reagent and consumable according to manufacturer specification, and monitoring the environmental condition where relevant. So that is why we have reagent fridge. Reagent fridge, you have to have for 2 to 8 degree thermometer, and then you have a freezer too. So which means when we get a fridge that contains a double that have freezer and fridge together, which means that we have 2 thermometers for us to read and check whether the temp for the fridge is 2 to 8 degree, and for the freezer, I think it's less than or equal to -15. When laboratory is not the receiving facility shall verify the receiving facility adequate storage, where they are in like third party. There are some places that they are using centralized storage system. Maybe for a town, may have one particular centralized storage system, we should be able to see how we validate and verify. So which means if we are having a laboratory or a facility, we should be able to go there and verify, and we should have a report of how we select them. We should have a report, their capacity, and we're able to tell inside that report what equipment that they have for storage, and we should be able to have that. That is very, very important, especially whether this one is like referral laboratory, but it's not a referral laboratory per se, but it's a central storage facility. Each reagent or new formulation examination kit, whether we get a new lot, this is talking about the lot to lot. I know quite well that we understand lot to lot, and if we have a new kit, we should be able to do lot to lot for them, and new lots or shipment shall be verified, and that is to perform lot to lot before we start using them. It is important consuming that can affect quality of examination shall be verified for performance before placed into use. And if we can do lot to lot, is very better. The laboratory shall establish an inventory management system for reagents and consumable. I know quite well that the system for inventory shall segregate reagent and consumable that have been accepted from those ones that have neither inspected nor accepted from you. And this is for us to have an SOP for inventory management for reagent and consumable. So inside it should be noted that there should be a system that where we separate the reagent and consumable that have been accepted for you, and those the ones that have not been accepted for you. So it is very, very important. Even come down to the urinalysis, we should be able to verify. We should be able to verify it before we start using them. Instruction for use of reagent and consumable, including those provided by manufacturer, shall be readily available, and that is why all our reagents, the leaflet inside it, we should be able to have all of them. It's a control document, and we should be able to stamp it with our laboratory identification stamp. Reagent and consumable shall be used according to manufacturer, but if they are intended to be used for other purpose. Reagent consumable adverse incident, just as what I said about equipment adverse incident, we should be able to talk about the reagent and consumable also. Just as we talk about equipment adverse effect, we're also talking about the reagent and consumable. If there's any adverse effect, especially chemical, exposing to hazardous chemicals. If we expose ourselves to hazardous chemicals, we should be able to have a report of such. Reagent and consumable record shall be maintained for each reagent and consumable that contribute to the performance of examination. So each reagent, you have the inventory card, tally card. All the reagents we are using should have a reagent and consumable should have a tally card. And that, I think, if we have the tally card, identification of reagent and consumable in manufacturer information, including instruction of the batch, date of receipt will be there, and the condition when they are received, the expiring date, date of first use, and that is important to have equipment tally card. When the laboratory uses reagent prepare, the suspender or combining out the record shall be included in addition to relevant information above reference to the person or person undertaking the preparation. I think from the tally card, the inventory officer will be able to sign that service agreement with the laboratory user. The laboratory shall have a procedure to establish and periodic review agreement for for providing laboratory activity. The procedure shall ensure the requirements are adequately specified. The laboratory has the capacity and resources to meet the requirement. When applicable, the laboratory advise the user of the specific activity to be performed by referral laboratory and consultant. We should be able to have MOU. MOU. It is very important. Maybe MOU with the maintenance, equipment technical consultant, and service agreement with people that are helping us in one way or the other. And if there is, we should be able to review them. Record of review, including any significant change, shall be retained. So we should have MOU with all our referrals laboratory if possible. Agreement with point of care operator. Service agreement between laboratory and other part of the organization using laboratory supported POCT, point of care testing. It is important for us to know that we are in the lab, in case that in the hospital setting, where in some places where nurses are doing glucometer, they are running urinalysis on behalf of the lab. It is important that scientists should be able to have an agreement, service agreement. If they ask you why are you asking, maybe through the medical director or the CMD, should be able to have an agreement that, oh, so department is supporting the lab to run this so test, especially this glucometer. And there's a need for us to know as scientists that most of these glucometer, we need to validate them for them. There is a need to do validations of the glucometer for them, and you keep your validation report. Though that is another topic on validation of glucometer. Is another topic on it. So, but the reason why many of us give them is that we don't know that we have responsibility. Even if you give them could be 9, could be 2, could be 3, you have to still validate the United strip that you are using for them before you give it to them, that this urinalysis kit has been validated. The nurses can use it, the doctor can use it at emergency. But your validation report, your validation report of both, let's say, the glucometer and the United strip you are using should be kept for all the departments that we are external provided product and services. The laboratory shall ensure that external provided product and services that affect laboratory are suitable when such products and services are intended for incorporation into the laboratory own activities, provided in part or full directly to the user by laboratory as received from the external provider used to support the operation. It will be necessary to collaborate with other organizational departments on function to fulfill this. Sometimes, most of the things that we are doing, just as we know that we have a lot of customer, we have internal and external customer, and we know that people that are running doing prepared calibration for us, they are not part of our laboratory. We have to make sure that there is a way we have an agreement with MOU with them, service agreement with them, and then we're able to know how we're able for them to perform effectively, even for those people that help us to repair our equipment or maintain. We should be able to know how they will work with us that will not affect our laboratory activities. I think the external support for the lab, calibration, facility and equipment maintenance service, EQA programs, and referral laboratory and consultants. This, we should ensure that there's a procedure in place, how they will service us, and referral laboratory have talked about the laboratory shall communicate the requirement to referral laboratory and consultant will provide interpretation and advice, the procedure, examination report, and consulting activity to be provided. Management of crystal results, any required personnel, qualification, and demonstration of the competency. Most of the lab, we cannot run all the tests. So we have to take some of our sample outside. So when you want to take your sample to referral laboratory, these are the things you need to do for for you to patronize any referral laboratory. Actually, you have to consult them, which is very, very important. It is very, very important. It is even important for you to know how they manage the critical results. Supposing you send a result to them, they send a result, they did a test and the result is a panic. Let's say they did a glucose for you now, and the glucose, your critical, the panic value for your glucose, maybe it's 27.9 or 33.3. And then your PC or they help you to run PCV and the PCV is as low as 6 or 7, and which is raising. How do they manage panic value if they want to send it? All these things should be discussed and documented. Any required personnel qualification and demonstration of competency, and it is important for you to know to verify their competency. Unless otherwise specified in the agreement, the referral laboratory and non-referral laboratory shall be responsible for ensuring that the examination results or referral are provided to the person making the request. And it is important for us to know that it is we that we collect the sample, that send the sample to referral laboratory, to make sure that we get the result back. And it should be inside the SOP for referral laboratories, SOP on referral. All these things should be stated inside all the list, and we should have the list of all our referral laboratory and all the referral and consultant. We should maintain it inside the lab. Review and approval of external provider. Laboratory shall have procedure and retain record for defining, review, and approve laboratory requirement for all external provided product and services. They should be able to say the criteria for qualification, how they select them, referral of the sample. These are the things that will be taken care of by the time you want to choose a referral laboratory. And all these things should be to ensure the external provider product conform to laboratory establishment requirement. And these are the things that we have to look at. Thank you very much. We are through with all of them. Do we have questions? Hello? 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 Do we have questions?